Merci, merci, merci. Thank you. Let me welcome Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Thank you for joining us here today. Le Canada est un allié, un ami, est un partenaire précieux. Nous sommes des garants solides des valeurs de démocratie, d'état de droit et de paix, des valeurs que nous partageons. The enduring relationship between the European Union and Canada has withstood the test of time and only grows stronger. Geography may divide us, but there is no ocean that can part our shared values, shared outlook and shared way of life. Through our strategic partnership and the comprehensive economic and trade agreement, our privileged relationship has reached new heights, but today we are facing a threat to all of us. We did not provoke Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine. We did not invite this confrontation between peace and war, but we share a commitment to solidarity with Ukraine and the millions of people forced to flee Putin's bombs. There is so much at stake, and no one knows this better than Canada, that is home to one of the largest Ukrainian communities in the world. The core values that we all share are under attack, and the democratic world order and the peace we have known is under threat. Scenes that we thought were confined to the dark chapters of our history books have returned. The fight of the Ukrainian people is a fight for freedom, democracy, and our way of life. We cannot leave them alone, and we will not leave them alone. With millions forced to flee, the world is again staring at an ever-worsening humanitarian crisis that we must be ready and we must be willing to face. Canada is a world leader in welcoming and resettling people in search of a way of life from horror, and we must rely on your expertise and your solidarity now again. It is really time to come together now like never before. Whatever it takes means continuing to match massive sanctions with aid, military equipment and financial support. But it must also mean real humanitarian corridors, urgent relocation, air bridges and a redoubling of efforts to seek a ceasefire. That is the response that all our citizens, whether in Canada or Europe, expect, and that is the response worthy of our place in history. This is our generation's moment to prove that we can live up to the promise of the world we inherited. We can give Ukrainian children, women and men a chance at a future without fear, but we can only do it if the world acts together. So, dear Prime Minister Trudeau, thank you for being here with us, for reaffirming your great country's commitment to democracy, to equality, to multilateralism, and to Canada's proud record of defending our shared humanity. Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Metsola, Chairman McAllister of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, Présidente, Guillaume Courtin de la Délégation pour les relations avec le Canada, distinguished parliamentarians, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to be here in Brussels with you all. Avant de commencer, j'aimerais d'abord exprimer mes condoléances suite du décès en début d'année du président Sassoli. C'est une grande perte pour votre Parlement et pour l'Europe. J'aimerais également prendre un moment pour adresser mes condoléances aux proches des victimes de la tragédie de Louvière, ainsi qu'à tous ceux dont la vie a été bouleversée par ces événements. Nos pensées et notre amitié sont avec la Belgique en ces moments difficiles. I first addressed the EU Parliament in Strasbourg in 2017. It was the first time a Canadian Prime Minister addressed your Parliament. Back then, this Parliament saw me as someone new on the world stage. We got to work, tackling progressive issues, building the things that we thought mattered. We could see that something was lurking off on the horizon, something shadowy, something that was threatening. We didn't look close enough. When I spoke to this Parliament 5 years ago, I spoke about making multilateralism work for the middle class and those working hard to join it, so that economic frustrations don't become fertile ground for populism, nativism, protectionism, and the polarization towards more extreme political views. Well, today, we are staring these forces in the face as they threaten the peace, justice, truth, democracy, and stability of our world. And we have a choice about what we do next. Since 2017, the world has changed a lot. A global pandemic has taken the lives of over 6 million people and disrupted the lives of everyone else. A global recession saw millions lose their jobs, with many economies still struggling to bounce back. A world that is not just now forecasting, but living the dangers of climate change. A growing distrust of governments and facts. A weakening of democratic institutions. We saw one of our staunchest guarantors of the rules-based order choosing for 4 years to step away from NATO, away from multilateralism. And now, Putin's criminal invasion of a sovereign, independent, democratic Ukraine. People have a real and deep sense of uncertainty about what the future holds. These are anxious times, and people are looking for leadership and solutions. Unfortunately, we're seeing a rise in cynical populists who are trying to exploit these anxieties. They pretend to have easy solutions that play on people's fears. Even in Canada, where 90% of people are vaccinated, and our motto as a country is peace, order, and good government, we saw anti-vaccine and anti-government protests devolve into illegal occupations of our communities and blockades of our borders. The leaders of those convoys were effective in turning citizens with real anxieties against the system best suited to allay those concerns. But democracy isn't a game. And there just aren't easy solutions to the big, complex problems we are all facing. But that doesn't mean that the way forward isn't clear. There is no greater clarity than the will of the people who want better for themselves and their children at home, and no stronger defense against destructive forces from outside our democracies than the unwavering unity of like-minded partners. Au cours des 80 dernières années, nous avons collectivement établi et renforcé une série de règles et d'institutions afin d'accroître la stabilité et la prévisibilité dans les affaires internationales. Nous l'avons fait pour protéger les gens, pour leur offrir les meilleures perspectives de paix, pour défendre leur dignité et leurs droits inaliénables, et pour faire en sorte qu'ils soient libres de choisir leur propre avenir. Aujourd'hui, ces règles et les institutions sont ouvertement menacées. Vladimir Poutine a enfreint les préceptes les plus fondamentaux du droit international. Et il tue maintenant des civils innocents en bombardant des hôpitaux et des immeubles résidentiels. Ce mépris flagrant des lois et de la vie humaine constitue une menace immense pour l'Europe et pour le monde entier. Canada, the EU, and all of our partners and allies are facing a defining moment. We cannot fail. We must meet this moment. So I speak to you today, no longer as someone quite so new. In fact, I may now be one of the longer serving progressive leaders around. And I'm certainly not going to pretend to have all the answers. But what I do know is that there is work that lies before us as thoughtful leaders, as people focused on the short and long-term well-being of all our citizens, as people committed to democracy and the values that underpin them. And that work is more important than ever. Putin thought democracy was weak. He saw our disagreements and debates as weakness. But what he has never understood is that the rigors of debate, that forceful civic engagement, is what makes us strong. And that democracy, at its best, will always be stronger than authoritarianism. But if we're going to be honest, and we need to be honest in this place, we haven't always been at our best these past years. Putin thought we were divided. He thought he could weaken the EU and NATO. He miscalculated, and he is seeing it backfire. NATO and the EU are now more resolved and united than ever, because all of us in this room who are committed to democracy know in our bones that democracy didn't happen by accident, and it will not continue without deliberate, mindful effort. Mes amis, je veux être bien clair. Les Européens, y compris nos alliés en Europe de l'Est, peuvent compter sur l'amitié et le soutien total du Canada. Le Canada dirige le groupement tactique de la présence avancée rehaussée de l'OTAN en Lettonie, une mission qui regroupe 10 pays de l'OTAN. Depuis 5 ans, des centaines de militaires canadiens sont déployés à des milliers de kilomètres de chez eux pour se positionner à 200 kilomètres de la frontière russe. Ils sont déployés en Lettonie parce que ce qui est important pour la sécurité de l'Europe l'est aussi pour la sécurité du Canada. Récemment, nous avons annoncé que nous doublons notre déploiement à l'OTAN pour les années à venir. Ces militaires ne défendent pas seulement la Lettonie et l'Europe de l'Est, ils défendent notre liberté, notre sécurité et toutes nos démocraties. We cannot let Ukraine down. They are counting on us. So let's use all the tools we have at our disposal. President Zelensky and I have been talking often about the strong ties between our countries. Canada, as mentioned, is home to the second largest Ukrainian community in the world after Russia. So we must all collectively step up to provide humanitarian aid to support families affected by this war and already start thinking about investing to rebuild Ukraine afterwards. We must all continue to send military equipment and lethal aid to help Ukrainians in their heroic defense, not just of their lands, but of all of the principles that defend ours. And we must continue to impose unprecedented sanctions on Putin and his enablers in Russia and Belarus, increasing the pressure as much as we can. We must ensure that the decision to invade a sovereign, independent country is understood to be a strategic failure that carries with it ruinous costs for Putin and Russia. Putin's attack on Ukraine is an attack on the values that form the pillars of all democracies. We have a responsibility to make the case to people about why these values matter so much, not just to Ukrainians, but to us all. We must recommit ourselves to the work of strengthening our democracies and demonstrate the principled leadership citizens everywhere are looking for. That leadership means reinforcing the things our citizens have in common, rather than playing to their differences. The task before us is not small, but given the right tools, we can do it. And we should all be reassured of how much of this work is already underway in this place and in parliaments like it across Europe and around the world. Au Canada, notre gouvernement élabore actuellement une nouvelle mesure législative pour lutter contre les méfaits en ligne. Cette année, le Canada assume la présidence de la coalition pour la liberté en ligne et nous comptons mettre l'accent sur la protection des droits de la personne, l'inclusion et la diversité dans l'espace numérique. Ici, à l'Union européenne, votre devise est unis dans la diversité. Au Canada, la diversité est aussi au cœur de qui nous sommes. Bien sûr, nous savons qu'il y a toujours plus de travail à faire, mais sur les plans de la réconciliation avec les peuples autochtones, de la lutte contre le racisme systémique, de l'égalité des sexes, de la défense des communautés LGBTQ2, nous faisons énormément de progrès. Que ce soit en assurant la mise en œuvre de la Déclaration des Nations Unies sur le droit des peuples autochtones ou en investissant pour soutenir les entrepreneurs des communautés noires, nous donnons les outils pour la croissance économique à ceux qui, trop souvent, ont été laissés pour compte. Governments can and should play a positive role in people's lives. In Canada, like in many European countries, we made massive investments to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was the right thing to do to protect our people, and it was the necessary thing to do to ensure a strong and robust economic recovery. Because we know that when we invest in people, including in the most vulnerable, and when we grow the middle class and make life more affordable for everyone, not only do individuals benefit, but our entire country and the foundations of our democracy also benefit. Que ce soit les conséquences immédiates de l'insécurité alimentaire, de l'inflation et des prix élevés de l'essence, ou que ce soit les conséquences à long terme des changements climatiques ou de la pandémie, les démocraties doivent être à leur meilleur pour pouvoir tenir les conversations difficiles et nécessaires avec leurs citoyens pour trouver des solutions. Et à propos de la lutte contre les changements climatiques, la collaboration entre le Canada et l'Union européenne continue d'être essentielle. Notre travail se poursuit pour accélérer la transition vers une énergie verte et renouvelable, pour respecter nos engagements de la COP26 et pour sécuriser nos chaînes d'approvisionnement, incluant nos chaînes d'approvisionnement pour les minéraux critiques. Il faut continuer d'agir ensemble pour bâtir un avenir plus propre et une économie plus résiliente. Canada and European countries also share the goals of reducing poverty and inequality while growing the middle class. We share aspirations for a better, safer, and cleaner future. Progressive trade agreements like CETA are helping our economies grow and creating good jobs while protecting high standards for workers, consumers, and the environment. Our ability to pull together despite differences and deliver for people really mattered, and I thank you all for that. With the longest coastline in the world, Canada's shores reach out into the Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic oceans, and our connections with the whole of the Americas is strong. We're one of the most globally connected partners at the UN, with memberships in NATO, the G7, the G20, the Arctic Council, APEC, the OAS, the Commonwealth, and La Francophonie. We all have a lot of work to do, and collaboration will be key to success towards building a better future for our kids and our grandkids. It will require constant efforts, but I'm confident that we are up to the task. I'm confident all of us here today. I'm confident in the resilience of our institutions, and mostly I'm confident in our citizens. And I can say that because of what I've witnessed over the past 4 weeks. The resolve of our united response to this unacceptable invasion has been stronger than anything Putin expected. And not just from governments, but from citizens in all our countries. It's that spirit and resolve that we must take forward with us. The European Union has mobilized to defend democracy. And as always, you can count on the friendship and full support of Canada every step of the way. Ensemble, nous devons soutenir les démocraties partout à travers le monde, incluant les plus fragiles, et lutter contre l'autoritarisme grâce à plus d'investissements et à plus de leadership engagé. Nous devons appuyer les gens courageux comme le président Zelensky et les Ukrainiens qui luttent pour leurs droits. Et nous devons poursuivre notre travail, chacun de nous, afin d'améliorer nos démocraties dans nos propres pays. 5 years ago, we saw the storm clouds on the horizon. But today, we are clear-eyed. Continuons à combattre les mensonges par la vérité, la peur par les faits, la division par l'unité. As long as we don't take our democracy for granted, as long as we keep working every day to make it better, as long as our partnerships are strong, we can be confident in the future. In the words of Volodymyr Zelensky, light will win over darkness. Merci beaucoup, mes amis.